The internet is divided about Frank Beard's death. What really happened during his final days? The internet is in shock. The rock world is mourning. And behind the heartbreaking announcement that ZZ Top drummer Frank Beard has died at the age of 77, one question keeps coming back. What really happened to Frank Beard? For more than 5 decades, Frank Beard was the heartbeat behind one of the most recognizable rock bands in American history. He was there before ZZ Top became a global phenomenon. He was there when the band was still fighting to find its place. He was there when MTV transformed Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard into international rock icons. And he was there through decades of tours, albums, sold-out concerts, and changing generations of music fans. But now, Frank Beard is gone, and the circumstances surrounding his final days have left fans searching for answers. According to reports, Beard died on August 17, 2026, at his ranch in Richmond, Texas, while receiving hospice care. His family was by his side. He was 77, but here is the important part. His specific cause of death has not been publicly disclosed. That means we know some important facts, but there are still major unanswered questions. What illness was he battling? How serious had his condition become? Why did he have to step away from ZZ Top's tour? And what happened during those final days that fans never got to see? To understand why this loss is hitting the rock world so hard, we have to go back to the beginning. Frank Beard joined the group that would become ZZ Top in 1969. Alongside Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill, he helped create a musical partnership that would last for more than 5 decades. Think about that, more than 50 years with the same band in rock music. That is almost unheard of. Members leave, bands break up, creative differences appear, careers change. But ZZ Top's classic lineup remained remarkably stable. Billy Gibbons became known for his guitar playing. Dusty Hill became known for his bass. And Frank Beard became the steady force behind the drums. He wasn't always the man in the spotlight, but he didn't need to be. His job was to create the pulse, the groove, the foundation, and he became very good at it. As ZZ Top grew, so did its influence. Songs like L.A. Grange, Tush, Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs became part of rock history. Then MTV arrived, and ZZ Top's image exploded. The beards, the sunglasses, the cars, the humor, the larger-than-life music videos. And ironically, the member named Beard was the one without the famous beard. It became one of rock's most famous jokes. But behind the jokes was a serious musician. Frank Beard had helped build the sound that made ZZ Top instantly recognizable. In 2004, ZZ Top was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Frank Beard stood beside Gibbons and Hill as they received one of the biggest honors in music. But eventually, time catches up with everyone. Touring becomes harder, long flights, late nights, constant travel hours on stage. For musicians in their 70s, the physical demands can become significant, and Frank Beard eventually began experiencing health problems that affected his ability to perform. In 2025, he temporarily stepped away from touring because of foot and ankle problems. At the time, there was still reason for optimism. He eventually returned. Fans could believe that the problem was behind him. But in 2026, concerns returned. ZZ Top was touring again, but Beard was once more struggling with his health. Then came canceled performances. Fans were disappointed. Some were confused, but most people probably didn't realize how serious the situation had become. The band continued performing with a replacement drummer. Frank Beard was absent. And then came the news that changed everything. Beard had entered hospice care. Suddenly, those earlier health problems looked very different. The canceled shows looked different. His absence from the stage looked different, but we have to be careful here. Hospice care tells us that someone is dealing with a serious medical situation, but it does not tell us the specific disease or condition responsible. And right now, Frank Beard's exact cause of death has not been publicly disclosed. So while fans are understandably searching for answers, We shouldn't turn speculation into fact. What we know is that Beard had health problems. Those problems affected his ability to tour. He eventually entered hospice care, and he died at his Texas ranch surrounded by his family. That's what has been confirmed. The private details of his final days remain private, and perhaps that is exactly how they should remain, because behind the legendary drummer was a husband, a father, a friend, and a human being. Millions of people knew Frank Beard as the drummer from ZZ Top, but his family knew him simply as Frank. And while fans are mourning a rock legend, his loved ones are dealing with a personal loss. There is another reason his death feels particularly painful. Frank Beard had already lost his longtime bandmate Dusty Hill. Hill died in 2021. For decades, Beard, Gibbons, and Hill had been one of the most stable lineups in rock music. Then Hill was gone. ZZ Top continued with Elwood Francis joining the touring lineup. Frank Beard remained, Billy Gibbons remained, the music continued. But now Beard is gone too, and that means the classic ZZ Top trio can never stand together again. Billy Gibbons remains, the music remains, the band intends to continue, but the original chemistry is gone. And that is something no replacement musician can completely recreate. Frank Beard's contribution is permanently recorded in the music. Every drum part he played remains, every album remains, every concert recording remains, every fan who saw him perform carries that memory, and that is the beautiful thing about music. The artist may leave this world, but the art can continue speaking. Frank Beard spent more than 5 decades giving people that music. He watched ZZ Top evolve from a Texas rock band into an international institution. He experienced the rise of MTV. He witnessed the transformation of the recording industry. He played for generations of fans, and somehow, through all of those changes, he remained part of the same musical family. That's an extraordinary legacy. But now the question is what happens next. Will ZZ Top continue without Frank Beard? The answer appears to be yes. Billy Gibbons has indicated that the band will continue in accordance with Beard's wishes. Some fans may struggle with that. They may believe ZZ Top should have ended with the original lineup. Others may argue that stopping would go against what Frank himself wanted. And there is a powerful argument for continuing. The band isn't replacing Frank Beard. They are carrying forward what he helped create. Every time those songs are performed, his contribution is still there. His drumming remains part of the arrangements. His recordings remain part of the band's history. His influence remains, so perhaps continuing the music is not about forgetting him. Perhaps it is about remembering him. But the biggest unanswered question remains: what exactly caused Frank Beard's death? Right now, the honest answer is that the public doesn't know, and that may be frustrating for fans. People want a diagnosis. They want a timeline. They want to understand what happened. But unless his family or representatives release additional information, we may never know the complete medical story, and that is okay. We don't need to know every private detail to understand the significance of his life, because Frank Beard's story is already extraordinary. A young musician joined ZZ Top in 1969. He helped create a sound that became globally recognizable. He spent more than 5 decades with the same band. He played on songs that became timeless. He watched his bandmate Dusty Hill die. He continued. He faced health challenges of his own. He eventually stepped away from touring. And then, in his final days, he entered hospice care and returned home to his Texas ranch. On August 17, 2026, Frank Beard died at 77, surrounded by his family. There was no grand final concert, no dramatic farewell on a stage, just a private goodbye surrounded by the people closest to him. And perhaps that is the part that fans find hardest to accept. We rarely know when something is happening for the last time, the last concert, the last photograph, the last conversation, the last time a musician walks onto a stage. Sometimes the final moment doesn't feel like a final moment until it's already gone. Now, Every ZZ Top performance featuring Frank Beard carries a different meaning. Every drum beat becomes a reminder. Every song becomes a piece of history. And every time someone plays L.A. Grange, Tush, Sharp-Dressed Man, or Legs, Frank Beard is still there, not physically, but musically. And perhaps that is how he should be remembered, not simply as the man who died at 77, but as the musician who spent more than half a century helping create one of the greatest rock sounds of his generation. The internet may remain divided. Fans may continue asking questions. People may continue wondering what really happened during his final week. And there may eventually be more answers. But until then, we should separate what is known from what is speculation. Frank Beard had serious health problems. He stepped away from touring. He entered hospice care. He died surrounded by family. His exact cause of death has not been disclosed. Those are the facts. Everything else remains unanswered. But his legacy isn't unanswered. That part is clear. Frank Beard mattered. He mattered to ZZ Top. He mattered to rock music, and he mattered to generations of fans who grew up with his music. He wasn't simply the drummer behind the band. He was part of its identity, part of its history, part of its sound, and now part of its legend. So perhaps tonight, instead of focusing only on how Frank Beard died, we should remember how he lived. More than 50 years of music, more than 50 years of memories, more than 50 years of rhythm. Frank Beard may be gone, but the beat remains. And every time those drums begin, his legacy will be there. Rest in peace. Frank Beard, thank you for the music. Thank you for the memories. And thank you for keeping the beat alive for more than 5 decades. Now I want to hear from you. What is your favorite ZZ Top song? Did you ever see Frank Beard perform live? And do you think ZZ Top should continue without him? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Because tonight, we're not just remembering how Frank Beard died, we're remembering how he lived. And sometimes, that is the story that matters most.